So welcome, Common Sense Patriots, to this episode of Common Sense for America. So we're talking about some current events right now. And one of those current events is Donald Trump's statement that he's going to be sending troops to the southern border to secure the border. And in fact, he's already ordered 1,500 troops to the border. Let's listen to this newscast and then we'll comment.
The Pentagon will begin sending 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border. Good evening, I'm Steve Eager.
I'm Heather Hayes. So this comes 2 days after President Trump signed an executive order declaring a national emergency. Fox 4's Stephen Dial in studio with more. Stephen.
The troops will join 2,500 troops who are already working on the border. When they will arrive and what role they will play is still unknown. 2 days after President Trump took the oath of office, active duty U.S. military troops are preparing to head to the southern border. It's part of one of his executive orders to combat illegal border crossings. While illegal crossings are still a concern, in Texas, those numbers are down.
In the last couple of weeks, we've seen a decrease in illegal border crossings between ports of entry.
It's interesting to note that illegal border crossings in Texas are already down, even before the latest contingent of 1,500 troops have arrived. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the immigrants who would otherwise try to cross the border now know that Trump is going to send them back. They know that trying to cross the border is more of a futile exercise. The 1,500 troops that Trump is sending join 2,500 troops that are already there. The controversial part of this has to do with a law called posse comitatus. Now, that law says that the United States government cannot use its military for domestic law enforcement. It goes all the way back to issues in the Revolutionary War when the British had troops stationed in Boston and used them to control every aspect of life in Boston. So that's why posse comitatus exists, and technically it says that it's not legal to use U.S. military troops to enforce domestic law. Now, the two exceptions are to protect the nation from invasion and to deal with insurrection. Let's see if that's called out in the newscast.
Just as of yesterday, illegal border crossings were down below 1,000. That's across the southwest border.
Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Chris Oliveira has told me crossings in Texas are down 87% compared to this time last year. But he is still encouraged by the news of more troops coming.
When more troops are sent to the borders, as some were sent last year, how does that help you guys?
And what they do provide is a value in really observing any activity they see on the border. They're able to operate cameras and sensors, so that provides additional manpower.
It's unclear if the troops will directly participate in law enforcement. Previously, the DoD restricted service members from policing the border. But overall, this is not a new concept.
So this newscast is admitting that it's unclear as to whether or not these troops will be involved in policing the border. They're saying, well, they're just going to look at monitors, operate drones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're going to end up expanding the Border Patrol with those kinds of people. And certainly, we've got to complete building the wall. It is unfortunate, and I remind you, the Biden administration sold all the materials that were stored for the building of the wall. They sold it for 10 cents on the dollar or less. So now we got to buy those materials back at current market prices and build the wall. Building the wall will dramatically reduce the manpower necessary to maintain and protect the southern border. And then we're going to have to deal with how we use federal troops, if at all. I suspect that we will end up replacing federal troops with expanded Border Patrol resources in order to comply with the posse comitatus law. Let's see.
Currently, there are 2,500 National Guard and military reservists working along the southern border. Most recently, President Biden sent troops to El Paso back in 2023.
So the more manpower you have, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's soldiers, boots on the ground is what we need. And now that we have more eyes that can actually monitor the border, it's really going to help us in trying to focus on those criminal threats.
Another border promise by President Trump was mass deportations. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, gave an update on Fox and Friends Wednesday morning.
In the last 24 hours, ICE has arrested over 308 serious criminals. Some of them were murderers, some of them were rapists, some of them raped a child, some were sexual assault of a child. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue.
I love that they are arresting these criminals and deporting them. Everybody agrees we should have murderers, rapists, pedophiles, all of those bad people should be arrested and deported. Now, we have controversy over other illegal aliens who might be honest citizens in all other respects. That's a different story. But there are plenty of criminals that have been let into the country. Let's face it, we think Venezuela and Cuba emptied their jails. And those are the people now we've got to round up and get out of here. Thank God immigration is doing that job. I don't think that we want to necessarily deport illegals that we call dreamers, people who were born here, people who were born across the border as infants, brought here and have lived here their entire lives and lived here legally and been good citizens. I don't think we want to deport them, and I don't think we will in the long run. But we do want to get rid of these criminals, and I applaud ICE for getting their handle on these people. And believe me, 308, that's a drop in the bucket. There are hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are murderers, rapists, pedophiles. We got to find them all and get rid of them.
Homan says the goal for Immigration and Customs Enforcement is to prioritize deporting criminals first.
President Trump's been clear. We're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats and national security.
It's unclear where along the border these soldiers will be stationed. President Trump just named Texas border czar Mike Banks to lead U.S. Border Patrol. He might have a say in that decision.
I love the phrase that we're going to concentrate on the worst first. And I love that they are concentrating on border states like Texas. This will have a direct effect on the lives of the people who live along the border in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California. This will have a positive effect on their lives. They've been overrun by illegal immigrants who go through their property on the way inland in the United States and trash their property on the way. This will have a positive effect. Thank God we're doing it.